It's UofL Today on 93.9 The Ville. Here's your host, Mark Hebert.
And welcome to UofL Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville. I'm so glad you're joining us for the show that's about all things University of Louisville. And before we get rolling with our guests, I do want to give a note of congratulations to UofL coaches and student athletes on a banner year. 18 of the 21 UofL athletic teams competed in the NCAA tournament or had individuals competing in NCAA championships. Student athletes Lamar Jackson and Brendan McKay won the awards as the best players in their respective sports. And off the field, UofL teams excelled academically, posting their highest ever overall APR scores from the NCAA. So congratulations to the athletics department at UofL. On the show today, a space probe headed towards the sun, more moons found around one of the biggest planets in our solar system, and of course, an upcoming solar eclipse that will darken much of western Kentucky for a couple of minutes in August. UofL astronomy professor Tim Dowling is here to talk about all things galactic here in just a couple of minutes. But first, all of you folks who are over 40 are going to want to hear what our first guest has to say. Dr. Art Malkani is a UofL orthopedic surgeon who specializes in hip and knee replacements, and he does research on new technologies for joint replacements. Dr. Malkani, welcome to the show.
Pleasure's mine. Happy to be here.
I'm 57. It's about time to get a hip or knee replaced, isn't it?
You're getting close. Depends on how you took care of yourself over the past 20 years.
Oh, I've brutalized my body, man. I'm in bad shape. I'll probably need one sooner or later. All right, so you do hip and knee replacements. That's what you specialize in.
That's correct.
Right. So how many people are getting hip and knee replacements these days?
Yeah, so we in North America, we've done over 1 million knee replacements a year nowadays. 1 million. So it's pretty much doubled over the past decade. We expect that number 1 million to go to 3 million by the year 2030 because of many reasons. And not as much hips, mainly knees, but hips have also gone up significantly over the past decade.
Just because we're getting older? Got more older folks or what?
Yeah, two reasons why. One, the average lifespan has gone up. So if you asked me 10 years ago, someone's 85 years old, will you do their hip or knee replacement? I'd say, are you kidding me? No way. They're 85 years old.
They're going to die soon. What's the point of doing a hip replacement, right?
And nowadays, you've got grandma. She's 85 years old. She lives by herself. The daughter's in Florida. The son's in Michigan. And she has to drive, things like that. So it's quality of life. They're healthy. We're living longer. And that's why people need to have function still. And the second reason is we're getting too obese as a society. So 40% of Kentuckians actually are obese. And so because they're so heavy, what happens by the time they get 50 years old, the tread and the tire's gone. They're wearing out the cartilage. So the younger group also needs to have joint replacements done earlier. So
wow.
Two groups.
Okay. I didn't even think about that.
Oh, that's the bulk of my practice is now, about 10% senior citizens in their 80s, and another 15% of younger people I would have never thought needed joint replacement. I did someone who's 38 years old, and she weighed about 300 pounds from the time she was 20 years old, and unfortunately, it takes its toll on your body. You don't realize that.
Wow. I didn't even think about that. We're talking to Dr. Art Malkani from the University of Louisville. He's an orthopedic surgeon, and he does replacement surgeries. When did you start doing hip and knee replacements?
So I was excited. Everyone has mentors in life. So I had my own mentors that made it so much fun for me what I'm doing in life, and we enjoy what we do. And to give people their function back, get rid of the pain, give them quality of life is so exciting. So I came out of the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, and that's a total joint mecca. So I've been here since Louisville about 23 years now doing hip and knee replacements. And
okay.
I'm mainly based out of UofL and also a Jewish hospital.
Right. And the technology has really changed from the time that you started doing them 23 years ago. What are we looking at now in terms of what they're, these joints are made out of, and some of the technology that you're now using?
That's probably the best question that you can ask. It has to do with things have changed so much over the past 20 years in terms of technology. Implants are durable now. They're made from 3D technology. They're actually printed technology where we use like porous, it's called porous titanium. Bone thinks it's bone, so bonds to it. So it's a permanent bond. The bearing surfaces are now made of ceramics, of liners that are so durable. I have patients out 18 years, 20 years doing well with their joint replacements. Now, having said that, if you gain a lot of weight, if you get too big for your frame, you're going to wear it up a little bit faster. But I've done a police officer that does triathlons. I've done patients who are so functional in life. It just alleviates your pain to allow you to do what you enjoy in life. But the implants especially are so durable in the attachment sites that it all has to do with technology. For example, you can have an amazing machine-made part that's just precise, but you have human hands putting it in. Well, unfortunately, that can lead to some minor errors. We're good surgeons, but the technology makes us better. For example, I did a knee replacement that the patient had to have a part put in at a 5-degree angle in one way, 14 degrees in another way. In space, it's hard for a human brain to do that. But when you have a robotic technology, it won't let me do it unless I'm in those parameters. It won't let me put it in unless it's perfect. So technology has made us better surgeons.
So I've got several questions out of what you just answered there. Number one, what were these replacements made out of 23 years ago?
You really want to know?
Titanium now.
You really want to
pigs?
But they used
I'm
to
guessing. I don't know. I have no idea.
The first were stainless steel, which would break. And and the bearing surfaces were what they call sterilized in air. So you cut an apple open, turns brown. Well, over time, these bearing surfaces broke down really fast. So now they're radiated, they're sterilized in nitrogen, and they're called many technologies that can improve that. And the implants are made of titanium, which is durable, and it's called highly porous titanium, so it's really durable. But the key is the bearing surfaces. Those are the ones that are lasting a long, long time. The parts that actually rub against each other.
And then you also mentioned something else about the robotics. So do you have like a robotic arm or something in the surgery room with you?
Yeah, that's correct.
That helps implant this device?
That's correct. You can actually Google a lot of this stuff. You can
Really?
see some stuff on YouTube. It's pretty neat.
Okay.
So I'm actually teaching about 100 surgeons how to do this in a video. We just took video of this. So what happens is it's a robotic arm that I use, and I'm doing the surgery, but it won't let me deviate. It's like you driving a car from St. Louis you use GPS, tells you where to go, but you can go off on the side of the road. Well, this won't let me go. This won't let you go off the side of the road. It won't let you. You have to go in the target
Put the
that you
airplane
have.
on autopilot.
Exactly right. Think of it that way.
Okay.
It won't let you deviate from the game plan.
Okay, and that it's a very precise way that it puts the knee or the hip in at a certain angles.
Oh, absolutely. For example, if your anatomy, you suppose your hip is an angle of 45 degrees. If I put it in 55 degrees, that hip's going to wear out faster for you. I need to put it in the precise to match some of your anatomy. So this is what it does. It provides precision technology that improves longevity. And because I don't have to see everything, because the robot knows where things are in space, my exposure is a lot less, so it's less painful for you. You bounce back faster. There's significant advantages.
How do people know if you are ready for a knee or a hip replacement?
Oh, yeah. So I encourage people to basically do all non-operative things first. Try medications, try shots, lose some weight, do some physical therapy. If the function of their life is poor, where they can't walk the dog, they can't put their shoes and socks on, they have a hard time sleeping at night, basically it's pain. We do this to alleviate pain in life. It gives you quality of life back. So people know when it's time to get it done. You failed all the non-operative things, and if you're still hurting, then you're ready.
And you said that some doctors had done these surgeries on triathletes and others. So I'm 57, I still bowl, I still play softball. If suddenly my knee deteriorates and I need a new knee, will I be able to go back out and play softball and keep bowling?
Oh, that's the whole thing. I've done people who downhill ski, who play softball. So absolutely, you can go back to what you were doing. That's the whole idea. These implants are so durable. You have to do the right things too. You can't be doing crazy things, jumping off trucks and all that stuff, And so you got it. Common sense.
You can't be a stuntman in Hollywood, huh?
You want to try to act your age a little bit, yes.
Okay. And are there other joints that are now also being cast into these replacements, such as shoulders, those kinds of things?
Yeah, so the most common joint in America is a knee replacement,
Right.
Followed by a hip replacement, followed by shoulder replacement. And so on occasion, people do elbow replacements, ankle replacements. So they do exist, but not as common.
Gotcha. Well, I want to talk a little bit about your research and some of the papers that I've read that you've been a co-author on. One of them was looking at trying to determine what causes problems after the implant, down the road. So what are you finding in your research? What are you looking at in your research, and what are you finding?
Yeah. So the reason it's important to do this is that if we can find out why these things break down, we can make it better. So we actually have a part of this big research where we send our retrieved sort of specimens, our broken down parts, and send it to a university in Philadelphia that helps analyze some of this for us. And it basically it tells us why these parts break down. So one of the reasons we figured out that these parts breaking down the liner was because they were sterilized in air. So that changed the entire dynamics of how they're made. A whole new engineering division started up, and now the parts are so durable. I can tell you, in a machine shop, these hips can last 25, 30 years now, So,
wow.
so the research is so important to identify a particular problem. The first decade, implants would break. Well, they solved that problem. Second decade, they would wear out. We're solving that problem. Now, unfortunately, some of the biggest challenges we have is infection. That's our future research, because if we eliminate the mechanical problems, now it's what the patient brings to the table.
Right.
We have patients who have multiple medical problems, diabetes, things like that, and those are the risk factors. We're trying to now maximize the patient's health prior to surgery.
Right, and that is that something you really can control? I mean, you're just the orthopedic guy. You're just sticking in the parts. Is there something that you can control before a surgery so that when after they do have the surgery, they're not going to get some infection or not diabetes isn't going to cause major problems?
Well, because Medicare is growing broke, because hospital systems don't have that many funding for a lot of this these complicated patients, that now the onus is on the patient. We basically will tell a patient, listen, I'm not going to operate on you unless your A1C is below a certain number, unless your BMI, body mass index, is a certain number, because you are 3 times higher in risk getting an infection. So once you explain to the patients and you tell them that, listen, that can of Coke you're drinking, I'm perfectly fine with drinking soda, but can of Coke you're drinking has 45 grams of calories. You got to burn that off. If you can't burn it off, don't take it. Right. So those are the things we talk to patients about, getting a healthy lifestyle so you can be ready for this kind of surgery.
What percentage of knee and hip replacements have complications after the surgeries?
Yeah, so less than 5%. So you have a complication. Number one complication, for example, in a hip replacement is dislocation. The ball comes out of the socket. This is why the robotic technology helps us quite a bit. The chances, I've had one dislocation in the last 1,500 cases that we've done. And it's because of trauma, patient fell down. So that's really getting less and less. So after that, it's wear, and we've got a nice, obviously, the bearing surfaces are so good. Then it comes things like infection. With knees, the number one cause that we're seeing is unstable. The knee gets a little bit loose on you, again, because it has to do with balancing the knee. Now with the robotic technology, we have perfect balancing. So the most common reasons they fail down the road now is infection. I've had 3 people get their knees infected after dental procedures, for example. They forgot to take antibiotics.
Oh,
you know.
And these implants, do they attach to the tendons and the ligaments and all the things that they're supposed to attach to?
Yeah. So we don't mess with the tendons and ligaments. We basically attach the parts of the bone. We're giving you back what you've lost, which is the cartilage. Okay. So these metal parts replace the cartilage, and metal has no nerves on it. So when you move it, you can't feel it.
Gotcha. So what would you tell folks, kind of wrapping this up, Dr. Malkani, what would you tell folks, if they're having trouble, their knee hurts, their hip hurts, they're struggling to walk, they're, 55, 60 years old, maybe 70. What would you tell them?
I tell them the future is great. I think, first of all, get yourself healthy. Get yourself healthy so you can go through surgery and have a good experience, minimize complications. And if you can get through that, then if you get a joint replacement done with the current technology that we have, it should be fun for you to go through the procedure, less painful for you. You'll return back to function earlier, and you should have longevity and durability with that implant to go back to doing the things you enjoy in life.
And how can folks track you down if they're interested in tracking you down? They think they need a new one.
Yeah. Just we're in the system. We're in the phone book. We're everywhere.
It's Malkani, Malkani, right?
That's correct.
All right. So, folks, you can track him down if you need to, if you think you need a hip or a knee replaced. Dr. Art Malkani. Appreciate you being on the show, and hopefully I won't need to see you in the next 10 years or so.
I've heard that many times. Thank you so much.
Sure. All right, Dr. Malkani. Tim Dowling is an astronomy professor at UofL who's been a busy man and an excited man the past couple of months. There's lots going on in space, as it seems like Americans have a renewed fascination with what's going on in the stars and up in space. And Tim, welcome to the show again. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
There's lots going on, isn't there, in astronomy?
Yeah, it's like dueling banjos this summer.
Dueling banjos? How's that?
We've got Jupiter being observed by Juno, and we've got Cassini over at Saturn, and they sort of take turns every week with the new, stunning
new discovery.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to talk first off about the big story that's coming up in August, is the full eclipse, the full solar eclipse.
Best one since 38 years. It's just an amazing. It goes all the way across the United States. I think the big story for us is that the epicenter, the deepest totality, is here in Kentucky for the whole global event.
And where is that?
It's down in Hopkinsville, just next the southern western part of the state. Kind of comes through Paducah, goes through Bowling Green, then heads out into Tennessee.
So I'm 57 years old. 38 years ago, I would have been 19 in college.
Late 70s.
Okay. I don't remember.
Yeah, we had a good eclipse in Virginia and Kentucky, late 70s.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember that.
Yeah, just barely. I think my biggest memory, I've seen a couple now, saw one in California. It's the tree shadows. I mean, it's, you have all the other things they talk about. If you're in totality, you can actually look at it safely for a brief few minutes. You need to have glasses, otherwise, etc. But it's things that you don't expect, like the shadows made by trees. every single little nook and cranny of a tree shadow has an eclipse image in it. So you have hundreds of eclipse images under every tree. And kids, kindergarten, first graders can go grab their mom's colander, spaghetti colander, run out and have, dozens of eclipse images. It's a really easy pinhole camera to make. Just grab a colander.
Oh, that's kind of cool. And
Yeah.
just put it on the ground. Or
Yeah,
you-
or just shine it on your sister or anywhere, anywhere.
So, what would you recommend for folks? First of all, describe, when we talk about a total solar eclipse, what is it? I mean, I think most folks
nothing
understand
much,
it.
more or less than a shadow. So the moon shadows this very long pencil that's usually in space somewhere and rarely goes across the Earth. In fact, it's only every year and a half that we have a total eclipse somewhere. But if it's your own backyard, if you want to do a personal account, it's 375 years between total eclipses. So it's a very rare event, and it's a very beautiful event. So you want to make a little bit of effort and get down to the totality. Now, if you stay in Louisville for one reason or another, you'll get about 95%. The whole entire state of Kentucky is 90% or better. So that's great. But the problem is, until it's gone into a total eclipse, you can't actually look at it with your naked eye.
Right. So you have to have the funky glasses, right?
Right. Sunglasses are not good enough. You can use welder's glass if it's grade 14. Or you can buy very inexpensive. I have a pair in my pocket here, a very inexpensive eclipse glass.
It looks like cardboard with some
see how dark
sunglasses in
it is? I
Yeah.
can't see you through it.
Yeah.
They're incredibly dark. Eclipseglasses.com. I think since there's going to be a big demand, you probably want to order them now. But they're very inexpensive. But you need special glasses to be able to look directly at it. Otherwise, you
Why
have to.
is that?
It's because the sun is so bright. It's a star. So within a second, you'll burn your retina out. You'll see red, and there's no surgery that can restore your eyesight. So you can actually lose your eyesight in a matter of just over a second.
You're kidding.
So yeah, it's extremely dangerous. So you can't ever look at the sun, even a little bit of the sun that's partially eclipsed. So that's the dangerous part. But the beautiful part is once it's in total eclipse, if you make the effort to go down to Hopkinsville, Paducah, Bowling Green in there, and you're actually in that 2 minutes and 41 seconds of total eclipse, then you can look at it and you can see something you can never see in any other way, which is the corona, which is this gas that's at 1,000,000 degrees. It's 1,000,000 degrees. It's 100 times hotter than the surface of the sun, and it's streaming out enormous in all directions, and you can see that with your naked eye. It's just, it's visceral. I mean, you get connected. The other thing is these celestial bodies are moving all the time, but you don't see it, you don't feel it. But with an eclipse, you feel it. You're part of it. It's very three-dimensional. Suddenly, you're just connected with the sun immediately. It's a very personal experience.
We're talking with Tim Dowling, who's an astronomy professor at the University of Louisville. We're going to talk about a few other things out in the stratosphere here in just a couple of minutes, but I do want to go a little bit more on this this eclipse, because is it total darkness? I mean, will it feel like it's midnight
Yes.
if I'm in Paducah, Kentucky?
Well, what happens, it's funny, is the birds and the squirrels think that it's going into twilight and darkness. And so they go into their nighttime routine. They have enough time to do that. And I mean, by the time the sun comes back out, the squirrels are in their pajamas. It's really funny. They get quiet. The birds change their tone to a nighttime tone. You see stars. If you're actually in totality, you can see the stars.
Really?
So, oh yeah, of course we have an eclipse every night when the sun goes down, but this is in the middle of the day. This will be, by the way, don't get confused between Eastern and Central Time. The eclipse starts about 2:20, depending on where you are, 2:30 Eastern Time, but where the eclipse is happening in totality, it's actually Central Time. So be careful not to
Right,
confuse
because Bowling
those.
Green, Paducah, Hopkinsville, they're all on Central Time.
They'll be on Central Time, so it'll be 1:20 Central Time.
And what's the date of this again?
It's August 21st. It's a Monday. So
Okay.
it's actually the very first day of school at the University of Louisville. Good luck.
I guess you're not going to be teaching a class that day.
No,
You'll be
I
somewhere in
teach
Western
Tuesday,
Kentucky.
Thursday, so I'll be down there, yeah.
And my suspicion is all the astronomy classes that are scheduled for that Monday will be off as you and your colleagues travel to Western Kentucky.
Some of my astronomy colleagues have tried to talk the university into skipping that day, but I don't think they're quite going to carry
no,
that.
I don't think they're going to change the schedule just for a bunch of astronomy professors, but maybe, I'll be there. I'll head down there probably somewhere. I may go to Bowling Green. I went to Western Kentucky University.
Well,
so.
you don't have to go to where the crowds are, but the emergency managers here in Kentucky are expecting an enormous crowd because we are the epicenter of the global event.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And the difference between a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse, obviously, one has the sun cut in front,
Right.
one has the moon cut in front. But why doesn't it get dark when there's a lunar eclipse? I guess because you're not seeing the
Well,
can't see
it
the
happens
moon.
during a full moon.
Right.
It's at night, so it's the other.
Right.
It's on the other side of the.
But it's pretty light outside when you see a full moon.
Yeah, well, the moon is fairly reflective. You get a lot of moonshine, earth shine, etc. But this is the actual sun. This is our star. This is
Right.
our star being blocked by the moon, and it's amazing. In the middle of the day, the birds start thinking it's nighttime and the stars come out and it gets cold. You feel it. But I think of all of those things, they're always amazing. The whole thing is very personal. For me, it was always the shadows, the hundreds and hundreds of eclipse images. Because you can't, most of the event, you're not actually looking at the,
Right.
You're looking at the partial. But you can look at all these shadows, and it's just really, really neat to see those.
Guess I need to go get my glasses on.
It's very
online,
eerie.
huh?
It's got that gray, eerie feel.
Well, it'd be similar for anybody who was on the University of Louisville campus when we had that severe rainstorm, and remember when we had the flood in 2009,
Yes.
and it got so dark.
Yes.
In the early morning, about 8:30 in the morning.
It
I
has
remember
that same eerie,
it was
very
weird.
unworldly feel.
It was just really, really weird. So.
But other than looking at the sun, this is a very safe event.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the sun. I know you don't know a whole lot about this, but I found this fascinating that apparently the United States is sending a probe towards the sun.
Right.
What's the purpose of going towards the sun other than trying to burn up a probe?
Proximity is always an advantage. It's an advantage for the chemists. It's an advantage for the spectroscopists. There are things that you could see. The magnetic field gets much stronger as you go closer to the sun. There are various things that are just fall off quickly with distance, and so you reverse that by getting closer. But of course, it is a suicidal mission in some sense.
Right. But what can we learn, I guess, is the question, if we go closer to the sun that we can't learn from watching from Earth?
You get that extra intensity. It's the same reason why a doctor wants to see you in his office rather than just talk to you on the phone. You get closer. So the magnetic field, the chemistry, you can actually taste the sun actually get molecules from the sun itself instead of having to always infer things from what we call remote sensing. So it's more. There are two basic ends to the strategy. One is in situ, which means you're actually in the thing you're studying, like in Venus's atmosphere. And the other one's remote sensing, and this just kind of gets away from some of the problems that you have with remote sensing.
Right. Talking with Tim Dowling, who's an astronomy professor at the University of Louisville. Well, let's talk now about the two things you're really excited about, the Juno probe to Jupiter and the Cassini probe to Saturn. What are they, and what are they looking for?
So Cassini's been there for 13 years. We actually had the big annual Planetary Science Conference here in 2004, which was the kickoff year for that. So it's been doing fantastic science, and they're running out of maneuvering fuel. So they've decided to have this spectacular grand finale end where their last 22 orbits actually go between the rings and the planet, which is just incredibly daring. And they've already completed 8 of those. The 9th one happens in 2 days. They're every 6 days. It's just fantastic. And on September 15th, the very last orbit actually goes into Saturn on purpose. And so then this Cassini orbit
What do you mean goes into Saturn?
Goes into the planet, burns
like
up.
plows into the
just like a shooting star. It goes right into the planet. And then it's going to become a probe. So it'll become the first Saturn probe. So this is just I would argue that this flagship mission, Cassini, is just the most fantastic mission we've ever flown, maybe on par with Voyager, certainly. But what's happening right now is they're getting so close. It's that same thing we were just talking about. They can get so close. The gravity field and the magnetic field are in a very high detail. It's lumpy. When you get close to a planet, the gravity and magnetic fields are very lumpy. And because of that, it's just like an MRI in a medical procedure. You get really close, and you can actually reconstruct the interior from never going inside the interior. So, but you can only do that if you get really close. So they're doing that with Cassini, and then Juno was actually...
wait a minute, before you go on to the next one. So what are we finding out then about Saturn and the actual planet and what's inside the planet, or are we finding anything out about Saturn that we didn't already know?
The results have not come out yet, the ones that I'm most waiting for. I did contact the head of the magnetometer team for Cassini and asked her, Michelle, how it's going. She said the data are lovely.
Lovely? That was her word?
She's British. So they're still doing the calibrations, and probably around August or something, we'll know. What's really exciting is Earth's atmosphere has a magnetic field, and it's been well measured, but we have a crust with permanent magnetism, so it shields. We can't actually reconstruct the inside magnetic field, what's called the dynamo, in Earth very well. But Saturn has no such shield, and neither does Jupiter. So we're actually, at the end of this summer, going to know more about, once, say, I give a year of analysis, we're going to know more about the internal workings of the magnetic field for these 2 giant planets than we actually do of our own planet.
Okay. And what's Juno found? I know that's the one you were personally
both of them. I
interested
actually
in.
have some skin in the game for both of them.
Okay.
So I'm waiting for the rotation period for Saturn. We made a measurement in 2009. I'll give you the number so you can root for it. 10 hours, 34 minutes. So that's our... And there's other groups with other times. So
what was there, 10 hours and 35 minutes? Or
35, 32, 45,
Seconds?
they're all over the
Okay.
place. So I call that the Saturn lottery.
All
Now,
right.
what's cool about that is the first scientific paper that came out in 1794. George Washington was president.
Okay.
Yeah, and on the
I'm giving you this quizzical look saying, how in the hell did anybody find anything in 1794 out
William
of Saturn?
Herschel was looking at the planet, and the title was On the Rotation of the Planet Saturn About Its Axis. This was the first scientific attempt to measure the length of the day on Saturn. So that's how long this question has been open. It's one of the oldest open questions in science. Okay. So we have our hat in the ring, and I call it the Saturn lottery. So on Jupiter, you have a mission called Juno, which was specifically designed to do all this, whereas Cassini is sort of just being adapted to do it to end its mission. Juno was specifically designed to do that. So it's doing the same thing, proximity orbits, looping in very, very close, like the fuzz on a peach, that's how close they get, and then they loop out, and they do theirs every 53 days. They had a little problem with some of the valves. They were going to go down to 14 days, but they're fine at 53 days. It just takes a little longer. So they've completed 6 of their orbits, and the next one's in July 11th. And then again, I've got some skin in the game there too about the how deep the jets are, and so it looks good. The early results.
Well, explain what the jets are.
Yeah, the belts and zones. The stripes on Jupiter are the jet streams, and they go east and west. And whereas we have 1 or 2 jet streams in our atmosphere, there's 12.
But it's the height of the jet streams. Correct?
It's how deep they go into the gaseous planet, right. And I've long been saying from the work that we've been doing since the late '80s that they're quite deep, and that was fairly controversial. But now it looks like that might actually be holding up.
So you might be right.
Yes.
You want to say I was right.
I'm not going to claim it yet, but
but that's what you want to say.
It's coming. It's coming.
All right. Well, I've asked you this before, and I'll ask you this again. Do you believe that there is any way that life exists within our solar system? That's my first question. Then I'll ask you the follow-up. Life as we know it. How about
outside
that?
of Earth, it's possible. There's some strange methane signatures in Mars' atmosphere that are hard to explain, but they could be geological. You need liquid water because you have to have a solvent, and water is the best solvent. So they found liquid water in some strange places, and they've completely changed the paradigm. We used to be looking for liquid water on planets and call it the habitable zone. But now they are finding liquid water on icy satellites. And so this little tiny satellite Enceladus of Saturn has a crack in it, and there's a geyser of liquid water pouring out of its south pole, out of this crack. That was completely flabbergasting. I mean, no one expected that. So now you have to think the habitable zones are not quite what we thought. They're actually larger. And you could basically, because icy satellites are common around gas giants are common around stars, and so you probably have liquid water inside of icy satellites
somewhere else in
hundreds of times more often than you would, say, an Earth-type planet.
Okay. Then my follow-up question would be, and what's the likelihood that life exists somewhere outside our solar system?
I like to say that if there isn't any, that's ridiculous, and if there is, that's ridiculous. So
what's that mean?
Either way, if there's intelligent life somewhere else, it's ridiculous that we're so far away, that we're quarantined, that we're so far away we can't talk to them. We haven't discovered them yet. That's ridiculous. And if there isn't, that's the vastness is hard to describe of the universe, but it is really, really big and very common. I mean, it's like a field of daisies, and only one of them is yellow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So either stance is ridiculous, and that's my favorite part.
And doesn't it seem logical? And you and I have had this discussion before. It seems logical to me that there's no way that Earth is the only habitable planet by some beings with higher intelligence. It just seems illogical to me that there's got to be some others somewhere else. We just don't know where they are.
Yeah, it's just, but then at some point you wonder what, even if there are, they're quarantined. Why is it necessary for these civilizations to be isolated and not be able to contact each other? So we're obviously missing a lot. Science right now is more about what we don't know. We have all these crazy things. You cover some of them: dark energy, dark matter. All these things right now are quantum entanglement. There are very strange things going on in science right now.
All right. Tim Dowling, I always appreciate you being on the show. Always fun to talk about this stuff. And maybe I'll join you wherever you're going on August, what is it, 21st?
21st. August 21st.
All right, very good. Thanks for listening to UofL Today with Mark Hebert, and go Cards.